From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
Good morning or good afternoon. I think it depends on watch. My watch is good afternoon now. The Asian Division and the Office for Scholarly Services are honored to have Professor Xu as our special speaker for this special event. I'm going to ask Dr. Miju Vince to introduce our speaker. Dr. Vince.
It is the great pleasure of the Asian Division to have Professor许倬云here today. Professor Xu is the 2004 recipient of the award for distinguished contributions to Asian studies. This award is the highest honor in the Asian field, granted by the Association for Asian Studies. In his 30 years of service as university professor of history and sociology at the University of Pittsburgh, he has built an international arena of China studies by having many of his students now teaching at the North America and Asian universities. Professor Xu's visiting professorship in China, Hong Kong, and Taiwan helped build academic bridges across the Pacific and promoted international understandings. On the scholarly front, Professor Xu's classical studies, Western civilization, Western Zhou civilization, ancient China in transition, and Han agriculture revolutionized the field of Chinese social history and Chinese agrarian history. His study gradually extended from early China, which is spring and autumn, Warring States, and Han dynasties, to the present. During his career, Professor Xu's books and articles explore some very important topics, such as conflict and coordination between the central government and the local forces, relations between agriculture and commerce, also rural versus urban, clan and lineages, social mobilities, and the comparison between the Chinese examination system and the Weberian concept of the Protestant ethics and bureaucracy. Since 1988, Professor Xu has served as overseer director of the Jiang Jingguo Foundation. In that capacity, he has been instrumental in promoting scholarships on China and Asia. His support of new teaching positions and research institutions, as well as pre-doctoral, doctoral, and postdoctoral fellowships, has been essential for the creation of a new generation of scholars on both sides of the Pacific. Professor Xu is currently a Special Distinguished Fellow of the Academia Sinica in Taipei. He still travels to Asia and Europe year-round to give lecture tours and to do consultations. An extremely prolific writer, Professor Xu has published 40 books and 114 articles in Chinese and in English. Some of his articles in our libraries, some of his books in our library's holdings are on display in the back of this room on a desk. Let us welcome Professor许倬云for his speech on how did Chinese manage their state and business organizations and their strategies of operations. Professor Xu.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Li, Dr. Zhu, ladies and gentlemen, this truly is an honor to speak at this palace of learning in the United States. My own special training is in history. Therefore, speaking on the topics related to this management is something quite accidental developed in recent years. I never learned any management, I never attended any management school, but somehow I'm getting into the field, and somehow people know me more on this field than my ancient history. It's a little bit embarrassing. But looking back about this kind of condition, find it's not that unusual, because Chinese has established, for a long, long time, China has established a very complex system called imperial dynasties. And before this imperial dynasties were established, there had been also the antecedent or precedent of dynastic management in those ancient periods to organize and to rule many states, each of the states with the size similar to the European state today. Therefore, in this a couple thousand years or even more experiences, Chinese failed as well as succeeded in many different manners and different ways how to handle gigantic, complex society involving personnel control, fiscal control, resource control, and so on and so forth. Therefore, the accumulation of Chinese experience becomes a rather rich treasury for us to tap, especially those cases of failure really deserve us to watch what we could bump into. Because Chinese have failed many times in the past. Why should we repeat those failures again? If China had succeeded in some cases, we perhaps can learn from them what they did. This is the reason I think today's talk is about. Relatively speaking, Chinese score sheet is not that bad. For a couple thousand years or more, Chinese state stayed together. The dynasty system pulled all the Chinese population largely into a pretty much unified entity. That's the reason Chinese mind always thinking China got to be unified instead of divided. Largely Chinese unified, and then largely Chinese had a good life. In other words, the economic success and sustaining of such success for 100 years or 1,000 years deserve us to look at it. This is the reason I think I'd like to extend from my own field of history studies into a newer, more practical field of learning, the management. Now, what I'm going to speak today is related to both the state side and the private sector. I will show some cases. However, before I come into those substantial cases, I'd like to also summarizing a few highlights of the Chinese philosophy and their particular institutions of management. Philosophy of management has been always concern of statesmen as well as scholars, even before the imperial dynasty were established. In the spring and autumn period, later at the sort of Warring City period, namely in the time 600 to 300 years BC, those states fought each other. They called a contending period. States were contending period. Successful or failure will become the life and the death business for the statesmen as well as scholars in those individual states. The level of organization of the Zhangguo warring states are not bad. The level is approximately similar to the level of Prussia before modern era, or England before modern era. Well-organized, complex system. Hence, these scholars as well as statesmen give deep thinking to develop profound concepts about how to rule and how to manage and how to organize. First, about leadership. Leadership involving how to rule and how to coordinate. There's always a central theme for the Confucianism, because Confucianism itself is a theory of human management. Leadership in the Confucianism is very different from what we regarded Machiavellian concept. Most important part of a Chinese leadership is that the leader got to be broad-minded, got to be tolerating, got to learn from subordinates, and got to watch the crisis. It's not a macho attitude. It's not a kind of a quick draw attitude. It's a very patient, very tolerating attitude. This kind of thing is different from the concept of charisma developed by Max Weber. Max Weber always considered that charisma is something born with. Truly, charisma is born with. But leadership cannot be just dependent upon the born leaders. Leadership could be taught and could learn. And the Confucianist basic idea is you have to learn how to become a leader. This kind of thing, in other words, Confucius would take criticism as a learning process, a learning procedure. If your own subordinates or your own friends give you critics, that is a chance for the leader to learn how to improve. It's not born with, it's to learn and to gain the capability. More noteworthy is in the conditions, such as fighting an enemy or engage with rival. Xunzi, the number 3 persons in Confucius system, it's Zhang Guo, Warring States philosopher. In one of the passage, he discussed a leader, such as a general. He used a general as a case. A field commander, a general, who would lead the expedition troops to far away. What are the qualifications the leader must have? Xunzi spelled 5 kind of things. The leader must respect his own ruler. That's understandable. His own colleague, that's understandable. His own staff, that's also understandable. That's soldier, that's also understandable. But the 5th is respect your enemy, respect your contenders. The worst failure is that you underestimate your enemy. You look down upon your enemy and you're doomed to fail. I must say that we often did that in this great republic of the United States. We often underestimate the rivalry and the enemy. And that is our basic problem. Now, this is about the leadership highlights. I also like to specifically highlight 2 concepts of the management, which I selected 2 items, which are called control mechanism. If you have organization in hand, this organization, you want to run smoothly. But any organization is made of a man, made of human beings. I don't want to call man, okay? When I say man, including women, okay? Include all the human individuals. The quality of these individuals determines the quality of such organization. So the control mechanism is a basic first step of stepping into organization. Is to choose to select the most worthy person. That is why Chinese started sort of the civil service examination system. That's why Confucians always emphasize that the quality of the state depends on the quality of worthy persons who would serve as civil servants, as public servants. The control of a person control human resources. That's the important part. Throughout a couple thousand years Chinese imperial history, therefore, we see something called civil examination. Chinese invented that, and then later on, in the recent centuries, this examination system spread all over the world. The first step handed over to the European world was through the Arabic people's hands. The Islamic learned from a Chinese examination system, and the Islam transmitted it into Europe. So by that time, medieval eras, these three major cultures did not fight, learn from each other. And Islam, all not that bad. They did a wonderful thing to Europeans too. Now, the examination system passing from China to Islam and finally to Mediterranean world and to European world, and then now it's universal. The basic idea is you must get good quality persons to serve. And later I will also speak about this in the other section, about private sector's business. So recruiting the best capable, worthy persons is an item I want to highlight. Secondly is sort of investigation system. It's a wrongly translated sensorial system. Censor, we know that is a selecting and a block. But investigation actually is not a selection block. Investigation is sending some experts to go down to the different level of the bureaucracy to look into their performance, look into their record, and check what their jurisdiction described, and check whether such an individual person had a promise to deliver. To check the IOU slip against what you could deliver. This thing is a control mechanism on an institution. Later on in Chinese system also developed fully. In Chinese government, there were always a particular board. This board would be responsible to dispatch surveyors, investigators to different places and different offices to look into the record, to check their fiscal record, to check the performance record, and so on, and their own character of these incumbent officers. For sure that nothing had been wrong. This is kind of built-in whistleblower. And these investigators, as we in English wrongly call them sensorial officers, these actually were whistleblowers built in as a pre-warning system to make corrections before any error and flaw develop into serious problem. I remember in the Nixon days, throughout the whole United States government, there's no single office can handle the problem, the issue of how to impeach a president. So it had to be invented by that time by a special prosecutor, right? Now, this because there's no built-in whistleblower system. While in Chinese, any emperor subject to two kind of investigation. One is the censorial board, always can make a memorial, correct what he said or what he did. And this cannot be ignored. Of course, many emperors simply totally disregarded going on anyhow, but all these memorials remain in the record, becomes the posthumous record of any ruler. Second is historians. Historians daily will keep record of what the emperor did. And many emperors try to find out that the court historians' record say, can I read it first? And some historian reasons say you cannot. No. So emperors were concerned about their reputation in the posthumous reputation in history. they will also very carefully control themselves. I do not mean all these mechanisms are working perfectly. In large number of imperial dynasties, a large number of reigns of emperors, these dictatorial, despotic rulers simply totally put these things aside. They don't care the historical record. They still did whatever we regard wrong. However, history did give them judgment and did give them name attached to their own temple names. The battle will be buried all through 1,000 years, a critical name judging that he is not good one. So the censorial, or rather investigation system, works not only for the officials, but also working on the emperors as well. Now, I highlighted these two control mechanisms because later on I will use that to speak on the private sectors. Now, all these basic concepts had been there even as early as the 3rd century BC, because a good scholar called Han Feizi, Dr. Zhu, could you please help me to write on the, I have transparency sheet here. You write Han Feizi. Thank you. Han Feizi, quite unfortunately. This one? Okay. Han Feizi, unfortunately, died in the jail, similar to Machiavelli, because he was very much harsh critics on the first emperor's conduct. So he passed away. He died in the jail. Yet in the jail, he composed of his complete works. In Han Feizi's complete works, he summarizes basically all the major theoreticians' ideas before his time, from Confucius down to Xunzi. Everybody's discussion, Shen Dao's, Shen Behai's, all included. And he not only summarized them, he also give his own comments, make an evaluation of which one's shortcoming, which one's a strength. And that volume, there is English translation today. And you will find that the English translation of that book so coherent and so clear, because what the original Chinese version is so coherent, so clear. Therefore, it rendered into any other language, remaining its coherence and coherence. And that because his idea is so clear. Now, that particular textbook, I call it a textbook, I find that if put into today's political science department, all these major schools of thought, you could have its incipient ideas developed there already, could be further elaborated into today's modern theory. It's one of the most marvelous treasury of knowledge. Now, by the time of the 2nd century BC, Chinese experienced a very prosperous economic growth. The first Chinese grand historian wrote a book called Historical Record. We call him the Chinese Herodotus, combination of Herodotus, Thucydides, and Plutarch, combining 3 persons. There's one special chapter on the economic aspect, actually on the business, and one chapter is a collective biography of that time as a businessman. And there's this grand historian called 司马迁，对不起，请你写写啊，司马迁史记。Now, in 史记 collective biography of businessmen, you may find that all these important advices, which any business could benefit, are summarized and kind of crystallized in a short biography. Which businessman did what and why he succeeded. All these businessmen, including the industrialists who had a large number of steel mills, industrialists who had large textile factories, and believe it or not, there was a prototype McDonald's to make a great fortune by selling prototype hamburger. Okay, you can see under the sun, there's nothing very new. Okay, what we see in New York and Boston and Washington D.C. today, we could find in the book. Now, each of these individual businessmen, they are successful because this reason or that reason. As Sima Qian, the grand historian, pointed out in simple lines, says certain gentlemen made a certain fortune because he quickly responded. His quick response to conditions and circumstances. Certain gentlemen did such a great fortune because he uses the concept that less profit, larger quantity of sale. Accumulated is better than high profit and a small quantity of sale. All this is common knowledge. But look at that as exactly what the early 20th century American business made a fortune. Also, he pointed out a certain gentleman very much concerned about the detailed checking of their own subordinates' conduct. And a certain gentleman made a great fortune because he carefully collected the informations. His management of human resources, management of material resources, and management of data or information resources. These are very modern ideas, and these ancient businessmen made these things at the as a strategy for their success in the time 2,000 more years ago. Now I'd like to move into the two individual cases. Two cases, the name of these two businesses still there. One of them became today state-operated a textile and a textile retailer called Rui Fuxiang. Rui Fuxiang is 400 years old, a textile retailer in Beijing, a Hmong family operation. For 400 years, this retail shop supplied the palace and the house of noblemen, the most wealthy persons in Beijing and around the whole world, the ladies and their gentlemen as well, their clothing and their family ornaments, decorations, drapers, and so on and so forth. From garments to draperies, everything, tablecloths, and so on and so forth, everything. Anything from plain cotton to elaborate embroidered roofs, anything you name it, they have it. They have many French, not shops, French places, we can say franchised, not really French branches, franchised shops around the whole world in different names, but also relate to this big shop. So it's a very big business. Now, this, I don't want to call it a company because it's single family owned. Internally, divided as called internal 6 departments and external 6 departments. Internal departments are personnel, fiscal, general affairs, and so on and so forth. External offices such as shipping, procurement, retail, wholesale, etc., etc. So you can see the division is very much similar to the central government of imperial dynasty. There are 6 boards in the imperial dynasty. Now, these departments were supervised by a number of very much experienced, well-trained staff, with one as today's general manager. Important part is that the Hmong family members, they don't manage it. They have the Hmong family house members, the Hmong's own people, don't manage the shop. They organize something similar to a board of directors. The Hmong only decided whether we should make more investment or whether we take more as deposit. That's the only decision they made annually. All the other things entrust the general manager and his own staff to manage the 6 inner and the 6 outer departments. What I want to say is about the 2 control mechanisms. For recruitment, young people, apprentice, 12 years, 13 years old, make it an open recruitment, but need 2 or 3 persons' recommendation, not necessarily this Ray Fuxiang's own employee. Any other textile business people with 2 or 3 businessmen can jointly sponsor the recommendation of one young man. And then come into this training, the kind of selection, the exam aptitude, the exam the manner, exam the more or less like the intelligence level, basic intelligence level, screening out, and then decide who is going to train to what particular specialty. But not a single person only being trained in one single line. Any apprentice were chosen by this senior staff, aiming at to be trained at least 2 jobs, major job as well minor job. Ideas in the future, such person can be shifted around. And when they got into their training ground, not just standing next to a senior person to serve, no, they have a period of schooling. In the schooling, the textbook is not business. Textbook is a Confucian classics. To be a good man first, to be good a businessman is only second. So there's a character nurturing is fundamental for the schooling period. For 3 to 5 year schooling system, then put them into junior apprentice job to learn from the senior persons, to be trained on job, sitting aside or walking around to deliver messages and so forth. Gradually, step by step, worked up. But those good ones who are who well trained and who had show some good potential, then will be shifted, transferred into the department which were not their chosen field, for them to learn new ideas. The future potential general manager or managerial groups will be switched over places, let them learn what other department did. These are the way to train the future leaders. In other words, not only they train when the entrance level, at the entrance level, they continue training and retraining at every level. Once become a junior manager, we're aiming at to be trained for senior manager. This is the way for 100 years, this Fuxiang never had a shortage of human excellence. And they don't want to use very many at the top level. So to the middle level or upper level, they start sending people out. Said, we perhaps would like to have you start a franchise by yourself. We finance you. You choose a place. You start your own store. We even give you supply, but you must follow our rule, our manner, our own principle. This is just an exact franchise as we have McDonald's over. This way they sending their second line person to start their own business so that in the headquarters you won't have a swollen of an upper level top heavy problem. Now, I went to detail about this kind of arrangement. See about the senior partner who become managers. Once they got a top managers, management level, they would have the right to be included in the Hmong family's board meeting. Hmong family started to listen to this professional's idea, whether any particular department should be expanded, whether other area, other geographic area needed to be developed. All these senior persons taking part in the board meeting, they're not employee in that case. Also, they would jointly determine how much bonus will be taken out from the profit to be distributed, to which level, how much, and so on. This is the kind of thing. People thought that China did not have a modern company organization. Based on what I talked, you can see this is exactly what a modern American business company organized. For 400 years, they continue to operate like that. Now, for the second control mechanism, Rui Fuxiang periodically will have 6 internal department personnel to check the record and performance of 6 external departments. Vice versa, 6 external department members will be ordered, assigned to check the inner 6 departments record. All the archives to turn over, to read it and to interview. This is exactly another imitation of imperial dynasties, some the Jingca. Jingca is capital domains general re-exam. Once in a while, in the imperial dynasty, from Song dynasty down to the Manchu dynasties, once in a while, the government would order all the central government in the capital region to go through a kind of a thorough re-exam, not on the persons, but on the policies and on the guidelines, on the laws and the statutes. See which part is outdated, which part is need to be revised, and which particular individual ranking officer got to go. Promotion or degradation will be decided according to the record of such kind of a Jingca. So Rui Fuxiang copied this in Jingca process to do their internal external check, recheck. Meanwhile, the management would dispatch senior staff to go to the franchise places as well as outside stations. So the outside station to make purchase, station to make a regional wholesale, station to supervise the retail shops and so on. Now, such kind of person would dispatch from this headquarters to all the 4 or 5 directions, taking route, circular route to find a result and come back. Not only to decide who is good, who is bad as an individual, but which route, which particular area needed to be expanded, which area needed to be shrunk. Their instruction is that you ask the junior members first. The last one to be investigated, interrogated, will be the top man in the area. You start at the very bottom, rank the fire, gradually interview people upward to the local boss. I think it's a very, very shrewd idea. But you collect the general ideas first. And then once, if you start to interrogate the top guy, that guy already said something. The underlings won't dare to defy that original boss is saying. Now, this is exactly the imperial censorial system works when they sending out 群案 or 巡查御史 or 监察御史 over places. Hence, 瑞福祥's operation be successful for 400 years, largely because it's in the capital and learning from all these imperial government's procedure of doing it. A small note added on that is, it's a retail shop for the textile, yet they don't spend the cash. Nothing is on cash. When they went procurement department, sending down people from Beijing to my home place, Jiangsu, especially Wuxi and Suzhou and Changzhou and Hangzhou, was silk, richly produced. On the way, they don't bring cash down. They went to Henan to purchase cotton, shipped to Jiangnan. Went on to Shandong, Anhui, shipping rice to Jiangnan. But Jiangnan highly industrialized. They don't produce that much rice for themselves already. They need food from outside. So the Rui Fuxiang using their capital to buy these materials to sell locally to earn profit, and then use the profit to prepay the silk farm, prepay the embroidery workshops and so on, guarantee next year's product. Such kind of operation, so systematic and so carefully using every penny of their own capital. No wonder they could survive for 400 years. And now it's a nationalized after 1950, it's nationalized. The shop's still there. And as I understand, it's not in the same old place anymore. I really will appreciate if that place, original headquarters, still preserved. I don't think so. It's a place called Dashilar. If those who have been in Beijing know that Dashilar Rui Fuxiang. That headquarters, I think, deserves as a business museum. Now, another, gee, my time goes by pretty fast. Huh? My time is 1:30, 1:00 是吧? Okay. I'll still leave some time for Q&A. Okay. Another case I like to mention is Rishencang in Shanxi. If who have visited Shanxi, you may find a place called Pingyao, an 800 years old city. The city wall, 800 years original, a little repairing. Many buildings inside, 800 years old. Rishencang is not that old. Rishencang about 600 years old. I went to that place and walking around and talked to people, and also I noticed something which other tourists probably did not note. That I found some of the wallpapers. Wallpapers were torn and during the Cultural Revolutionary days. And for makeshift, they make the old ledgers and the old daily reports as wallpaper. So I found this very interesting. I read those wallpapers, which including 100 years old dairies, every day's record, 100 years ledger, how much money spent for this, for that, how many procurement, and so on and so forth. 日升仓 is a prototype bank in this Pingyao city. One of the largest bank in the time of 17th century, 18th century, 19th century. Just thinking about that, the great emperor Kangxi, Manchu dynasty Kangxi emperor, 17th century, he ruled 60 years as ruler. He conducted 3 expeditions, 3 campaigns against Western Mongolia, called Zhengge. Kangxi 3 times had campaign against Zhengge. Who funded that 3 campaigns? Rishenzang. The imperial government wasn't rich by that time. Imperial government got to borrow money. They borrow money from this prototype bank to fight 3 campaigns. Just this illustration, you can tell how wealthy and how large the capital this Rishenzang had in hand. Now, how they got that rich? We always sort of, especially our Jiangnan people, always laugh at the Shanxi people. So Shanxi people are extraordinarily thrift. They save every penny. No, you cannot by saving every penny to make that big a fortune. It takes a whole lot of strategy, a whole lot of good management to make it. Now, bypass a little bit, okay? Bypass this thing, detour a little bit to other things. In the Ming Dynasty, say, by the time 15th, 16th century, Mongolia remained very strong along the border. The Ming imperial guards had to routinely deploy something about 500,000 people along the Great Wall. How to feed these 500,000 people is big business. By that time, they started this shipping the food over. But even the porter needed to have food on the road. So he ate up all the whole thing. It's not worth it, okay? So eventually, you ship about 2.5 units to make the delivery of 1 unit. That's not the way of doing it. So imperial government mean that they find some way, say, okay, we cannot do it. Let's charter the merchants to do that. Businessmen may do a better job. So giving incentive, they tell the businessman, whoever wanted to charter this business, we give you, the imperial government give you a privilege, a monopoly of certain business, such as salt. Salt in imperial China is always monopoly, but everybody needs to take salt, right? Except today's healthy food, okay? So make a monopoly of salt with a charter certificate of certain areas. Very lucrative business. Hence, certain businessmen will say, all right, I do that. I ship the grain to the frontier, not because that is profitable. That's a money-losing business. But I get money from some other sources. But businessmen, they find some way to do it. Okay, I don't transport. I grow there. I got land nearby the Great Wall and produce rice, produce grain right there. You did not say I should ship only rice that place. Wheat, barley, oat, anything can be good food, right? So grow there. It's called a kaizong. Hence, the businessman saving the transportation cost by locally grew the grain, supply the frontier army. It's smart enough. This particular trick, Rishenzang learned it. So when Kangxi fought that war, those battles, Rishenzang said, okay, we take over the supply business. We take over the logistical part. Exactly using the Ming practice. that part, Central Mongolia and Eastern Mongolia had been very friendly to Manchu government, actually already incorporated. So they leased the land from the Mongol leaders, eastern part and the central part. Grew wheat, barley, whatever there, supplied the army. They always saved shipping money. The lease, they had to pay rent. They tell the local princes and the quarter, those Mongol princes and the dukes, okay, since you need rent, and you need the rent in cash, and then you send somebody to Beijing, to Tianjin, to buy the daily use items, such as salted fish, such as cosmetic materials for your daughters, and so on. We do that for you. Hence, the shipping, the daily items, domestic items from east to the Mongols. Mongols give them land. They grew rice, grew wheat and food to supply the army. On the other hand, they still had an imperial IOU slip. They don't deduct to say, this amount I saved, I don't want to charge it anymore. They fully charge the government to repay their money. This way started a big business. Then they become loaner. They loan to whoever want money. Not only that area. They loan to start with, they loaned to the government, right? They loan to the Mongol princes. They loan to the merchants, loan to everybody. Loan to whole China, actually. But by loaning money, they're using information. Again, same as Reifusha, they don't send cash over places. They send a commodity, shipping commodity over places to make a profit. Domestic as well as international business. International where? Along the northern transportation line from Manchuria to Russia. All the trading back and forth. Wherever they earn the local products profit, that particular extra cash is ready to be loaned to other businessmen. Southbound, loaned as far as Hankou, Chongqing, and Nanjing. Large part of China, anywhere north of Yangtze River, south of Siberia, all become their networks for loaning and borrowing. But they don't send the cash, they send the materials. How did that? They have to find out that even a small, a narrow margin profit, they will cash on that. 哎呦，谢谢。 Then here's information control. They developed their own network of Pony Express. Fast horse running to deliver message. What is the grand price city A? What is grand price city B? What is oil, cooking oil price here, cooking oil price there, vinegar price here, there, any kind of things. Then gradually become routine. Daily, they will send local marketing information to the headquarters in Shanxi. We all know Shanxi is not a very open place. It's closed in. But for 4, 5, 6 directions, they managed to do that. Eventually, you know what they did? Not on the Pony Express, before Telegram, what they did. Pigeon relay. Every 20, 40 miles at pigeon station. So for Hankou to Shanxi, a single evening, at night, you get a Hankou's daily market to Shanxi. In this, on the wall, you still can see posts there. They are code. Suppose the pigeons captured somebody else. Somebody can read the note, the secret confidential information, right? They have a code like a dictionary, a code book. The code book's daily coding is posted on the wall, so that the database on-duty clerk can receive it and immediately translate the message. But which day, in which particular code, is only determined by general manager. This is just like a war game. It's not business. It's a fighting battle, right? It's a headquarters of field commander or headquarters of general staff to gather daily information, use it, and sending out to make instruction. Let the field commanders to fight their own battles. And then tell which region to supply which region. Tell which region to buy certain kind of item, shipped immediately to certain other regions. Short distance, long distance. Any small profit, if you cash it on time, you got it. So this big network, including flow of materials and flow of information, is managed over organization, right? Now, another control mechanism is about the personnel again. I read one of episode of the local people. In today's Pingyao, ancient city, I really advise you people take a look at that city, interesting city. It's a third rank city in China, third rank or fourth rank, not very big, awfully rich. In that city, there are not only Rishenzang, there's about 12 other shops, other money shops called Qianzhuang. Some of them are Rishenzang's rivals, some of their friends. And they would do everything possible to recruit from their enemy, the rivals, the top men over. And they retain, by all means, keep their own best persons, preventing being raided by the enemy. So within that small city, every day there's war of personnel, how to get the best talent to my side, not to you. And look there, not in that city, outside the city, you see each of these big Qianzhuang had outside storage. City too small for these storages. If some of you, especially Chinese parents here, who have seen 大红灯笼高高挂, saw that movie? I suppose many of you saw it. In the 大红灯笼高高挂, the concubines or ladies, each one had one courtyard, right? That big compound. Not really. Those compounds are not for concubines. Each courtyard is for one kind of storage. Fur, grain, cotton, copper, whatever. Each courtyard is not for this favor of ladies. Each courtyard is for these commodities. Now, all these big compounds called 大院, 乔家大院, 王家大院, so forth, scattered all over places in central and the northeastern corner of Shanxi. It's like a military compound. On the top, you have guns. You have all kind of defense works. You have large number of guns. Defend that thing. The wall just thicker than city wall. Tunnels underneath to connect this and that. So in a way, they do business like a fighting a war. They organize things as a troop. Information war, personnel war, and defense. Again, they do similar as Fuxiang. They dispatch their people to investigate and examine what all these branches and franchises are doing, carefully doing here and there, check carefully. And within their headquarters, they also had monthly meeting or every 10 days meeting. Let all the employee, from junior to senior, from apprentice to general manager, everybody speak of what they have heard, what they have noticed, which particular problem of particular phenomena could lead into a problem. Promotion is quick. Demolishing is quick too. But often, they don't just change the people's special line. Demolition, promotion still stay in the same line. And often they use a cash award instead of a promotion. Because they say certain person's ability to notice certain problem does not mean his capability to manage a bigger units. So let him have more bonus, but don't just promote him to do that. It's very careful with taking into consideration people's specialty and the people's limit. So here I think these two cases illustrate here. I want to point out that the experiences, Chinese development in handling this 2,000 years bureaucracy is not stopped in the government side. It becomes a common knowledge for private sectors to learn, to adopt, and to use it. And this is what I say history is all about. In other words, Chinese historians do not simply using government history as a part of political science. Chinese historians those days already knowing how to teach the businessman to learn experiences of these many years' failure and success. Today, Chinese businessmen in China may not be familiar with these traditions because they were educated in Harvard Management School or Stanford School of Management, etc. They know the American cases, especially Harvard School's curriculum is on the cases. So these Chinese businessmen today may not know these two cases I'm talking about. But ladies and gentlemen, don't you think that these two cases really were each one worth a textbook? And not bad organized, not badly organized. Probably better organized than Enron. Better organized than Anderson, don't you think? But they all have this whistleblowing mechanism built in it. They always, both cases mean that they carefully recruit, carefully nurture, and carefully handle their people. Chinese businessmen treasure their long-term relation with their own partners as well as own clients. Therefore, they always say, we wanted to take good care of good reputation and a good term. This is the reason when Western world started to deal with Chinese, there was always such a legend. I think David all probably heard that too. The legend says that American business or British businessmen, after 20 years or so, without hearing anything from an older client in China, suddenly a shipment arrived. Said that my father in a database told me that he owed you a shipment. Now I made it. And including all this interest of 20 years in the shipment of Chinese material. I think we all heard that 100 years ago or so. Because this is a Chinese older businessman's long treasured tradition, credibility. Credibility is most important capital, more important than cash, more important than market. These Chinese businessmen they're not afraid of competition. They learn from the enemy. They respect their enemy. They respect the rival. Sometimes they rather make the competitors in the same field, the same businessmen, work together, get together. That's the reason in China, any particular shop in a particular city, if that shop collapsed, there are other shops of same business would chip in to help them, help their shops once again standing up instead of collapse. They see this as kind of like fraternal love, friendship, beyond a friendship, fraternal love. Reason many of these managers were trained in the older shop as an apprentice, then dispatched out to start their business. They don't want their own brothers' business collapse. This is something perhaps we don't find in the modern day's world. In the early 20th century, we know that it's really a jungle law. It wash away the lesser fits. They don't rescue the lesser fit. Today, perhaps the same thing. The Chinese businessmen try to respond quickly and decisively. Meanwhile, they often aim at a make sustained business relationship rather than short and cut through the profit. They quick respond because they collect information carefully and rapidly. But they don't see that any quick profit is the end of this whole thing. They want to nurture the market. They respect each player of the game to play in their own manner, because there's a rule, the rule of the guild, the rule of their own profession. However, they may hit back if somebody violates the rule. And all the colleagues in the same business may jointly sanction or boycott somebody violating the rules. The internal rule is more important than law. Every business circle has their own internal rule. And that is kind of habitual and custom. It's not just customary, not just written as a state law or public law. And that sanctioning power often is stronger than the government law. Now, I think I will use to 1:10 already. I'd like to reserve 20 minutes for Q&A. I always find that Q&A period, to me, is more interesting than my monologue. Thank you. And would you care to enlighten me with your question? Yes, David?
This has been a presentation of the Library of Congress. Visit us at loc.gov.